All eyes are on Pope Francis, after the Vatican announced that he will not be able to carry out his papal duties due to health issues. Is this the end of the papacy? Will we be seeing a new pope in 2025? What is the current health status of the ailing pontiff? Stay with us until the end of this video as we explore what could be the possible cause of Pope Francis's death and how soon we could see a new pope. On Wednesday morning, April 2025, an announcement was made from the Vatican City that shocked the whole world. The director of the Vatican press office, Matteo Bruni, confirmed that Pope Francis had been suffering from some health complications that would prevent him from carrying out his daily activities. He further stated that the Pope would still be able to perform some light duties at the Vatican. But for now, he won't be able to meet with visitors or carry out pastoral work outside the Vatican. The statement read, "His Holiness Pope Francis has accepted the resignation of Cardinal Giovanni Battista Re as prefect of the Congregation for the Bishops. Thanking him for his service and his commitment, he appointed Cardinal Leonardo Sandri, prefect of the Congregation for the Oriental Churches, as his successor, assigning him the temporary administration of the aforementioned dicastery until the entry into office of the new prefect." It's not uncommon for popes to step down or resign when they get too old to handle the pressures that come with being the head of the Catholic Church. Pope Francis is currently 87 years old, which makes him the oldest pope since the 91-year-old Pius IX died in 1878. However, like Pius IX, Pope Francis seems to be in perfect physical condition despite his advanced age. So what could be the problem? In 2023, the Pope underwent a 6-hour operation due to a blockage in his pancreatic duct. This was a serious surgery that involved removing part of his colon and small intestine. It was also quite risky considering his advanced age. But it seems like everything went well because the Pope recovered quickly and resumed his normal schedule at the Vatican. Now, however, it seems like the surgery may have had long-term effects on the Pope's health. Since the surgery, the Pope has been canceling events left, right, and center. He has had to cancel several scheduled trips to Africa and Asia, and has also been delegating more responsibilities to other senior Vatican officials. In January, the Pope named Cardinal Stephen E. Dara of the United States as his special envoy to the Democratic Republic of the Congo and South Sudan instead of going himself. He also canceled a planned trip to the African nations in February, citing health concerns. The most recent event that the Pope canceled was a 3-day trip to Mongolia that was scheduled for late May. This would have been the third papal visit to Asia after trips to Japan and Thailand in 2019. According to the Vatican spokesman, the cancellation was due to the Pope's knee problems. He said, "It is with deep sadness that the Holy Father has accepted the invitation to make a pastoral visit to the Republic of Mongolia from May to May 2025. His Holiness, who is following the advice of his doctors, wished to express his closeness to the Catholics of that nation, assuring them of his spiritual support and love." This sudden turn of events has led many people to believe that the Pope is on his deathbed, and that he might not make it past 2025. But is this really true? Is the Pope actually dying? Well, only time will tell. But for now, we can speculate based on the information that we have. The first thing that we need to consider is the fact that the Pope has been canceling events left, right, and center lately. This could be due to a variety of reasons, but it's hard to ignore the fact that it's happening more frequently than before. The second thing we need to consider is the Pope's age. At 87 years old, he is the oldest Pope in modern history. While it's certainly possible for someone of his age to be in good health, it's also possible that he could be suffering from health complications that are not being made public. The third thing we need to consider is the secrecy surrounding the Pope's health. While the Vatican has been very open about some of the Pope's health issues, such as his recent surgery, they have been extremely tight-lipped about other issues. This secrecy has only fueled speculation about the Pope's health, and has led many people to believe that there is more going on than the Vatican is letting on. That being said, it's important to remember that just because someone is old and has health problems doesn't mean that they're dying. There are plenty of people over the age of 80 who are in great health and living their lives to the fullest. With that said, it's also important to be aware of the warning signs of death so that you can be prepared if it does happen. Some common warning signs include a change in eating or sleeping habits, difficulty concentrating, and withdrawing from social contact. If you notice any of these signs in yourself or a loved one, it's important to seek professional help. Death is a natural part of life, but that doesn't make it any less difficult to deal with. If you're struggling to cope with the death of a loved one, please know that you're not alone and there's help available. Reach out to friends, family, or a mental health professional today. So, will we be seeing a new pope in 2025? Only time will tell. But while we wait, let's keep the pope in our thoughts and prayers. With all that being said, let's take a look at what could be the possible cause of the pope's death. As we mentioned earlier, the pope is 87 years old. And while that doesn't mean that he's necessarily dying, it does mean that he's more vulnerable to health complications than someone who is younger. Additionally, the pope recently underwent major surgery. Again, this is not necessarily something to be concerned about, as it was a necessary procedure that was successful. However, it's worth noting that surgery is always a risk, no matter how routine or complex it may be. Lastly, the pope has been very busy as of late. He has traveled extensively and has carried out his duties as the head of the Catholic Church without taking much time to rest. This sort of lifestyle can take a toll on anyone, regardless of their age or health. While it's impossible to say what could be the cause of the Pope's death, if it were to happen in 2025, all of these factors could play a role. Now, let's move on to how soon we could see a new Pope. If the Pope were to die, the process of electing a new Pope would begin immediately. The current Pope would be succeeded by the Dean of the College of Cardinals, who would serve as both the Pope and Bishop of Rome. The College of Cardinals would then meet in a conclave to elect a new Pope. A 2/3 majority vote would be required to elect a Pope. Once a Pope is elected, he would be enthroned in St. Peter's Square. The entire process of electing a new Pope could take anywhere from a few days to a few weeks. As we mentioned earlier, the Pope is currently 87 years old, which means that he is the oldest Pope in modern history. This doesn't necessarily mean that he's on his deathbed, but it does mean that he is more vulnerable to health complications than a younger Pope. Additionally, the Pope recently underwent major surgery. This again isn't necessarily something to be concerned about, but it is worth noting that surgery is always a risk, no matter how routine or complex it may be. Lastly, the Pope has been very busy as of late, has traveled extensively and has carried out his duties as the head of the Catholic Church without taking much time to rest. This sort of lifestyle can take a toll on anyone, regardless of their age or health. If the Pope were to die, the process of electing a new Pope would begin immediately. The current Pope would be succeeded by the Dean of the College of Cardinals, who would serve as both the Pope and Bishop of Rome. The College of Cardinals would then meet in a conclave to elect a new Pope. A 2/3 majority vote would be required to elect a Pope. Once a Pope is elected, he would be enthroned in St. Peter's Square. The entire process of electing a new Pope could take anywhere from a few days to a few weeks. Only time will tell whether or not the Pope will die in 2025. However, if he were to die, we would likely see a new Pope within a few weeks. Thank you for watching. We hope that you enjoyed this video and learned a thing or two about the Pope's health. If you have any thoughts or opinions on this topic, please share them with us in the comments below. We value your input and would love to hear from you. Until next time, stay healthy and take care.